श्री लोक रंजन जी, डायरेक्टर लाल बहादुर शास्त्री नेशनल एकेडमी ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, मिस मोनिका धामी, डिप्टी डायरेक्टर, डॉक्टर सुनीता रानी, प्रोफेसर एंड एसोसिएट कोर्स कोऑर्डिनेटर, मिस एकता उनियाल, असिस्टेंट डायरेक्टर एंड एसोसिएट कोर्स कोऑर्डिनेटर, नमस्कारम. It gives me great joy to address the participants of 123rd Induction Training Program for IAS officers conducted by Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration. I am indeed grateful to the director and faculty of the Academy for asking me to give this valedictory address. I am informed that this induction training program has been conducted for perspective building and to impart conceptual clarity about development and challenges in the area of public policy, governance, and public administration. A congregation of public servants always calls to mind the image of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, our first Home Minister and the unifier of nation, who conceived and implemented the idea of an all India administrative service despite formidable opposition at that time. What Sardar Patel wanted to create was a steel framework that would serve the people and strengthen the unity and integrity of India. His famous address to the civil service officers at Metcalfe House, Delhi, on 21st April 1947 encapsulated the vision of a civil service for independent India and foundation for Suraj or good governance. As officers who have put in around 20 years of service in various areas of administration, you are now entering a new phase in your career. So far, you were part of the administrative machine, carrying out directions from senior officers and facilitating the smooth flow of administration. We could describe this work as operational task where the work trajectory was generally conceived by others. However, from now on, you will be tasked with work which is conceptual in nature in addition to the responsibility of overseeing the management of operational part to be carried out by others down the line. In your new role as IAS officers, you need to strengthen your skills at conceptualizing programs and various schemes and their effective implementation. After initial training, you will be supervising all infrastructure development projects and working with district level agencies to implement centrally sponsored schemes. The district magistrates, due to their wide-ranging duties and responsibilities, are often described as kingpin in a district's affairs. Let us consider the present situation where the district administration is fully engaged in the management of the COVID situation. Today we are working hard to contain the horrors of second wave of COVID-19 pandemic. We now have the duty to ensure supply of adequate oxygen and treatment facilities in almost every town of the country, including rural areas. In this context, I would like to mention the proactive steps taken by the district collector in Nandarbar tribal district of Maharashtra to set up liquid oxygen plant just days after COVID cases began to decline in September last year. Dr. Rajendra Bharut, district collector, had noticed that there were 190 patients in the district and felt that the cases could rise again. He led the setting up of an oxygen plant with capacity of 600 liters per minute. His success is that he made advanced planning to deal with any future surge and be prepared to meet any contingency. Now, this is an interesting case study for every planner and administrator in our country. In Kerala, we are facing a heavy wave of COVID-19, but all throughout the pandemic, we were able to keep mortality rate low. Besides, even though the numbers of patients are high, our infrastructure, that is primary health centers, are well equipped and trusted by people, and therefore only those patients who develop complications go to big hospitals. The primary health care in Kerala became strong and effective due to large-scale public awareness that disease anywhere is a threat to health everywhere. It is not enough that we be careful about our own health and well-being. We created a system which takes care of health and well-being of everybody in the society so as not to be at risk. We improved infrastructure and educated the people so that they remain calm during the pandemic. An efficient bureaucracy is essential to ensure economic performance of a country. In 2022, India will be marching into its 75th year of independence, with many goals still remaining to be achieved. As officers who would be working to achieve these goals, you need to be aware that people's hopes have grown from mere basic needs to a life of quality. Today, every citizen hopes to have nutritious food, quality health services and education, a gainful job and other basic facilities. These are not mere dreams of the government. These are the just expectations of a new India, and therefore these are the targets we are committed to achieve. If India's economy aspires to surpass the target of 5 trillion US dollars, we need to consolidate the cohesive union of 130 crore empowered citizens, carrying forward the proclamation by our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. To meet our national expectations, we need to empower the agricultural community, implement effective schemes for housing, skill upgradation, and thereby ensure overall socio-economic growth. It is your initiative and drive that would play a crucial role in translating the policy proclamations and development schemes of the government into reality. Excellence in implementation is expected from our administrators. Achieving desired results in the minimum time is the essence of excellence. You may recall that during the first wave of COVID, the union and the state governments delivered ration at the doorstep of 75 crore persons, transferred 2 lakh crore rupees directly into the bank accounts of huge numbers of beneficiaries, and created infrastructure for treatment of COVID patients. These were shining examples of excellence in action or excellence in implementation. In Kerala, the stories of children not being able to attend online classes motivated people to organize help in terms of connectivity and devices. We have seen so many officers at senior and junior level liaising with people, reaching out to common people to bridge the digital divide within a short period of about 2 months. Now our endeavor must be to eradicate hindrances, to add good practices, to evolve improved models of implementation, and to replicate success stories on a continuous basis. In fact, that is the true essence of excellence. And the idea of excellence in action is not the product of some management guru, rather, as it has been mentioned by your director Shri Lok Ranjan, it comes from Bhagavad Gita, the song Celestial, Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam. That is excellence in action, which is motto of Indian administrative service. An efficient and committed bureaucracy is essential to ensure the progress of a country. However, the bureaucracy is often criticized, then appreciated, not just in India, but the world over. There is a saying, many people say that India grows at night while the government sleeps. This is indicative of people's frustration with red tape and official delays that often characterize our governance. Such criticism points to the need to reform the administrative apparatus so as to assure sustained economic and social development, and it also calls for personal initiatives by the officers to address these issues which give dissatisfaction to the common man at the ground level. Quite often, we tend to seek the very concept of bureaucracy from Western thinkers like Max Weber. We even think of welfare and human rights as concepts received from West. About statecraft, we swear by Italian thinker Machiavelli. But our own Kautilya's Arthashastra had more mature musings on governance, human rights, women's rights. For instance, Arthashastra says, Pirja sukhe sukham ragya, Pirja nam tu hite hitam, Natma priyam hitam ragya, Pirja nam tu priyam hitam. This points to the belief that the true happiness of the ruler, of the government, consists in the happiness of the people. What we see in such a belief are also the ideas of human rights and the right to happiness, which guided the Indian concept of statecraft. On the other side, the author of The Prince, Machiavelli, had written centuries ago, after Kautilya, that people must either be cherished or be crushed. Now, such a thought would never be accepted in a society which prayed for the happiness and well-being of all people. There is a famous prayer which says, Sarve bhavantu sukhna, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukbhag bhavet. The Indian concept has been that a ruler, administrator, who carries his duties, rules according to law, metes out only just punishment, applies law equally to his son and his enemy, not only goes to heaven, but would conquer the earth up to its four ends. The days of the kings are gone, but the concepts and principles of governance continue to guide our system. You are inheritors of such a noble tradition in governance, and it is your duty to carry on this concept by making it relevant to the present day. However, it would be good to keep in mind some of the rising expectations of our society. These expectations come not just from political leadership and your superiors, but from common masses who must be served in the same spirit as a believer worships his God, her God. Manav seva hi, Madhav seva hai. Swami Vivekananda used very powerful words to reinforce this message. He said, the first of all worship is the worship of Virat, of those, all those who are around us. Worship them. These are all our gods, men and animals. And the first gods we have to worship are our countrymen. These were the words of a great Swami, ascetic, but it was the soul of Indian ethos and Indian traditions that was speaking through him. In Srimad Bhagavatam, we have the God incarnate Kapil during an exposition of spiritual life to his mother Devahuti says, Atmam sarveshu bhuteshu bhutatmanam kirtalayam archaye dan manabhyam maitri abhinen chakshusha. He says, after gaining enlightenment, he had this desire to share this new knowledge. Nobody was around, so he called his mother. And this shlok is part of that dialogue between Kapil Muni and his mother, which means that therefore worship me. Me means God, the superior truth, supreme truth. Therefore worship me in all beings by practicing respect towards them and removal of their felt wants in a spirit of intimate friendship, maitri, and attitude of non-separateness, abhinna chakshu. For I am the one self in all beings and have made a temple for myself in all of them. Our constitution assures certain basic rights, and if you look at them closely, the basic purpose is to ensure dignity of mankind, which is the fountainhead of all fundamental rights, fountainhead of all human rights. It is the sacred duty of the government to ensure that a common man enjoys these rights freely. And what is the medium? How government can ensure it? It can be only through you, who will be in direct contact with the common man. Ibn Khaldun, the famous medieval Arab philosopher and historian, has rightly described the role of the civil servants in the following words. The civil servants are the ears through which the government hears, the eyes through which the government sees, the tongues through which the government speaks, and the hands through which the government works. So it is not just the development plans, it is the constitutional goals also. It is our sacred duty to ensure, to see that the rights which have been ensured by the Constitution, they become a reality for our people. The role that you are called upon to perform necessarily demands sensitive handling, particularly in your dealings with the underclass, with the deprived people, those who have been discriminated against. In your dealing with them, you have to be particularly sensitive. Mahabharata says, never think that the weak and helpless are to be treated with contempt. The weak have in them decidedly a great strength, for nothing is left of the strong who has been burnt by the tears of the weak. The weak does not have the physical strength, economic strength. but his tears are very powerful, very strong. And that's why at some other place it has been said, in the same book, scripture it has been said, that the real duty of the ruler is to wipe the tears of the poor, of the deprived, of the old, and that truly is the Raj Dharma. Mahabharata further says that the basic purpose for which government has been created or government is needed is to protect the weak, and the weak survives because of the strength of the government. dur balarthe balam srishti dhatra man dhata ruchiyate abalam tu mahad bhutam yasmina sarve pratishtitam. In elsewhere it has been said that question has been asked, which is a civilized society, a dharmic society? Then the reply was given that a society in which Matsya Nyay is absent, where the law of jungle, the law of fishes does not operate, that society is civilized society. And how to ensure that the law of jungle does not operate? Because in any case the strong fish will try to devour the small fish. That is where the role of the government, the role of the administrators starts. It is with these goals that you have to carry on the work of creating a new India which will be more developed, stronger, and more progressive and more sensitive in protecting the weak. The task is enormous, but with concerted action, commitment, and dedication, along with people's participation, such goals can be achieved. In conclusion, I would remind you, although Shri Lok Ranjan has spoken about it, our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi in 2015, while speaking to the IAS officers, he had exhorted them to take inspiration from the motto Sheelam Param Bhushanam. The meaning of that has been explained in detail by Shri Lok Ranjan. I am not going into details, but I think we may keep that in mind. And finally, I would say to you that the real test of those who are in government, those who have the responsibility of the administration, is that they must carry conviction with the people. It all depends on the kind of credibility that we build, and the real formula for building credibility, where we often see this, that it is credibility which arms you with the power that even if you are saying something which is not liked by the person whom you are addressing, but if you have the credibility, then that person goes with you. And the formula for building credibility, which comes from our tradition, is Satyam Vad Dharmam Char. Speak what is true and act righteously. This was the lesson which was given by Guru Dronacharya to his disciples. And when in the evening this was the first lesson which was given by. And when in the evening The disciples were asked to repeat it. All of them repeated it except Dharmaraj Yudhishthira. And at the end of his life, he said that merely parrot-like repeating is not learning the lesson. You have to live the precept. You have to practice it. And then he said that it took me a lifetime to learn the lesson which was given on the first day. Therein lies the secret of building the credibility, which is needed for any administrator, anybody who has to deal with people, with the public. My best wishes to all officers present in this training to work with devotion and dedication so as to see the dawn of progress in every sphere of activity. लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।